Hey everybody, Mark Edward Lewis here, Cinema Sound Studio B, and we just did a video for starting the mix, the beginning of the mix for Blade of Honor dialogue, and I want to show you what we've got in store on the sound effects level, one of these action sequences in space that we've got. We're in Pro Tools 12, but everything that we talk about here pretty much applies to Adobe Audition and New Window and all of them. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to spin me around and spin the camera around. Yay! Here we are in Pro Tools, and there's the picture. We talked about how we organized everything, and I'll just run it down for you real quick here. Turn off the Raven. We have masters in yellow here at the top where all the master section is, and we do our mastering plugins, and we have all of the dialogue. And we're going to scroll down here. Lots and lots of dialogue. As always, we love tracks. Tracks are always our friend. More tracks the merrier, as long as your DAW can handle it. Let's see here. Down here, there's the reverbs of them. And then we have the sound effects starting here, which is super cool. Nope, wrong way. And then basically all the sound design, sound effects, and then we have the ambiances in blue, Foley in brown, and then the music here in purple. Obviously music and Foley are not in because there ain't nothing there. And in a moment we'll talk about what's going on with ambiances, but for now it'll be sound effects. And there's usually, in my case, when I'm doing a mix, it's usually where most of the tracks are. They usually show up in the sound effects. Now we may have over 100 tracks of music, but we'll easily have 150 tracks of sound effects without even trying. I mean, these are all the sound effects in green here. Lots and lots of those kinds of tracks, and then ambiances, which we'll talk about in a second. I kind of want to show you this little sequence here, this little picture. I know you're like, why aren't you doing a screen capture? Well, because I got two screens, and that's really hard to deal with. Let's see. So where are we at here? Right, so none of this is mixed because that's why we're about to start the mix, but you can see I've got here a whole host of just specifically jet sounds. Here's a processed Harrier for one of them. Let me see, I'm going to do this with my left hand here, which is a little weird. I'll tell you what, I'm going to hold this with my left, and I'm going to use my right. Yes, good. And here's another jet takeoff, different from one of the different ships. And I've grabbed control over the pitch of these by going over here. Let me tab over here for a second. Find my soloed track. There it is up here. I'm using a Waves plugin called Sound Shifter, and I've automated this here, the actual pitch. So if you watch this go down, you can see it's changing actually, and I've automated that, so I'm not stuck with the pitch of any particular sound. In fact, let's just look at it here. I'll show you the automation of the sound shifter, and there it is. You can see that I've just done it by dragging the fader up and down. Kind of indicating the jets getting higher and lower. Which is cool and super useful, as you can see. Here's another thing. We got a cool jetpack sound in here. Oh, play. Which just gives another element to it. Let's see, what else have I got in here? Another jetpack for the plane. Here I use this kind of thing on Star Trek Axanar when I did the mix for that. I love sea helicopters. They just got this beautiful sound, so I processed this. Just has that really cool vibe to it. And then here's a different Harrier jump jet sample I found. And I used Waves Doppler on it to indicate that the thing is flying by. So you can kind of see that initial one there as it comes by camera. I helped it. And then the last bit is this is an F-18. And you might hear, and it's hard on my little phone microphone, but a little flanging that's going on there. And I must have burned that in using flanges. We talk about that on Cinema Sound all the time. Using a flanger with a low oscillation gives it that thing, you know, stuff's coming closer or farther by changing the delay. And then I've got some other cool things up here of just a library of sound effects that I've actually created specifically for Starblade flybys. This is one. And then I made a different library for the bad guys, the Kalinar, flying by over here. Let's see here, play. And then get to it here in a second. And making a library is one of the most important things you can do for yourself. Otherwise, you're sitting there constantly dragging things in on multiple tracks in a perfectly good mix, and that's not so cool. So let me show you here. I'm going to move over to the Finder. I'll show you what I did. Now this is going to come out of my display speaker, but it can't be any worse than listening to things on my iPhone. So I've got an explosion library that I've made of all the explosions that I want to pull from. I've got a gun library, which we'll talk about in a second. And then, let's see, ship libraries. So here is Starblade 4, Starblade number 4 by. And you just, you know, alter the elements of Starblade sounds a little bit so that each one has a different flavor. So you can run a whole bunch by. And they all sound sort of different. There's one. Here's number 1. 2. And you can hear a little bit of that helicopter in there. 3. Anyway, and then here's some Kalinar buys, bad guys. I wanted them to feel a little more digital. Another one. Yeah, so with that, I can just take these, I can take all these and just drag them into the session really, really fast, and then I've got a cool situation, and I can build really quickly. The other thing I did is the same thing with guns. Let me just move this up here. I'm going to solo a few of these gun tracks. Again, nothing here is mixed. It's all just really kind of barren and out there. Let's see, let's go to this bit here. So there's, you know, it's just barren and horrible, just sitting out there. But one of the things I noticed, and let's just talk about this this front Starblade here. I think this is, yeah, this is the front Starblade. It's actually Arena, our hero's Starblade. I wasn't really, I mean, I like that. I built that library, obviously, it works, but I wanted something that was much more interesting, that added a lot of, God, we love hearing that sound, like the old Battlestar Galactica Vipers. And of course, when Glenn Larson brought them over to Buck Rogers, we're like, that, you know, that weird sound. I wanted something that was higher frequency, that had a lot more fun to it, that we just loved hearing. So I found some eagle, it's actually not eagles, it's actually hawk sounds, and I'll solo this specific thing for you. I added some juice to it, but generally it's a hawk scream with a little percussion. You can hear it in there along with some slinky noises. And added some flanging and some other kinds of things with it. But then when you, you can watch it here, which is pretty cool. But when you add it with the actual thump and the power of the other sounds, you get a pretty cool result. And then whenever we got really close, because whenever we're shooting Arena's fighter specifically, we're on the actual, it's always a camera, like a on fighter camera. Then I added, we're going to go back here to the actual mix. Let's go back a bit. I added, here we go, it's called the gun buzz right here. And on the gun buzz is a whole lot of stuff. There's a multi-delay, which is what we use when we want to create sounds for like transformer sounds. And then after that, the other thing we do with transformers is we add distortion to make it really nasty and buzzy. And then a nice flanger to give it some oscillation and some coolness. And what I'm doing is then bussing this stuff. You can see this is the bus here, the 2930, which is going, where's my finger? There it is. Pull my finger. 29 here and going, and that's this buzz track. So you can check this out. And watch what happens if I turn it off. Here, I'm gonna, hold on. I gotta do two hands to do this. But if I turn it back on, sorry, you're looking at the ground. And if I turn this up, you can really hear this bang kind of transformery sound happening. Which whenever we're on her, it's on her actual ship, it feels cool, like you're right next to the gun and, you know, things are super loud. As opposed to where we're not necessarily on her ship, which happens over here. And check out the difference. How about this? There. And then when we get to the ship itself, yeah, it's super awesome. Anyway, that's some fun stuff from Sound Effects. We're going to be doing the mix here today. Wait, turn the camera around, Mark. They can't see you. Yay! Then we're going to be doing the mix here starting in a few moments. I'm going to do another video on the ambiances, and enjoy!